So this morning I'm going to do yet another update on Donald Trump and his peace plan. I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to read from Exodus 10, and I'm going to show you how this is eerily similar to Pharaoh trying to negotiate with Aaron and Moses. So I'll go ahead and get started right now. Look at right here, right there, top line. It's a plan. It's a plan that will really work. Trump said he'll likely release the plan before Tuesday meet with Netanyahu and Gantz. It's Friday. See, we only have a few days left, according to this. U.S. President Donald Trump said Thursday that he'll likely release his long-awaited Middle East peace plan before his meeting early next week at the White House with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Blue and White Party chief Benny Gantz. It's a great plan. It's a plan that really would work. No, it won't. No, it won't. There are many reasons why it will not work. I'll continue. Trump told reporters in Air Force One en route to a Republican Party meeting in Florida. Trump said he was surprised that both Netanyahu and Gantz were willing to take a break from campaigning for the March 2nd elections to join him on Tuesday in Washington. They both would like to do the deal. They want to see peace. And every time they use that word, especially peace and safety or peace and security, it just makes me shake my head. After all that has happened in the past 2,000 years in Jerusalem, they think that what they do is going to make a difference. Nobody can make peace in the Middle East except for Yehoshua, Israel's Moshiach. Nobody. Look, Israel wants peace. The Palestinians want peace. They all want peace. Not everyone wants to say it. That's not true. The Fakestinians don't want peace. They openly say they don't want peace. So what is this that's coming out of President Donald Trump's mouth? It is delusion. All right? We've spoken to them briefly, but we will speak to them in a period of time concerning the Palestinians. And they have a lot of incentive to do it. I'm sure they maybe will react negatively at first, but it is actually very positive for them. We took away their money, Trump added. That's a lot of money for them. All right, so what he's saying is the incentive is getting money back, essentially. The U.S. stopped funding the UN agency to focus on Palestinians, which slashed hundreds of millions of dollars in aid for projects in the West Bank and Gaza. No, it's not the West Bank. It is Judea and Samaria, and it will always be Judea and Samaria. Trump also closed a Palestinian diplomatic mission in Washington, saying the Palestinians refused to engage in peace talks with Israel. I thought he just said that the Palestinians want peace. Well, their actions prove otherwise. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence announced the invitation for Netanyahu and Gantz to visit during a meeting with the Prime Minister in Jerusalem after addressing the International World Holocaust Forum on Thursday. He said that at Netanyahu's request, the invitation was also issued to Gantz. Asked when he would release the plan, which has been shepherded by the president's advisor and son-in-law Jared Kushner, Trump said it would be rolled out sometime prior to his meeting with Netanyahu and Gantz. We shall see. probably will release it a little bit prior to that, Trump said. The plan is expected to strongly favor Israel and is unlikely to garner any international support if it is seen as undermining the prospect of a two-state solution. We have no better friend than President Donald Trump, Netanyahu said. With his invitation, I think that the president is seeking to give Israel the peace and security it deserves. No, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump cannot give Israel peace and security. He can't. It's impossible. There is only one who is ordained for that job. It's Yehoshua HaMashiach, or Moshiach. The Palestinians rejected Trump's peace efforts after he recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moved the embassy there in May 2018. If this deal is announced with these rejected formulas, the leadership will announce a series of measures in which we safeguard our legitimate rights, and we will demand Israel assume its responsibility as an occupying power, said Nabil Abu, I don't know what that last name is, a spokesman for the Palestinian Authority, President Mahmoud Abbas. He appeared to be referring to oft-repeated threats to dissolve the Palestinian Authority. We warn Israel and the U.S. administration from crossing the red lines, he said. Channel 12 cited unnamed Israeli sources reporting earlier Thursday that the U.S. administration plan calls for Israeli sovereignty over Jerusalem and 100-plus settlements and the establishment of a Palestinian state on condition that the Hamas terror group gives up its weapons and Palestinians recognize Israel as a Jewish state and Jerusalem as its capital. The channel also reported that the U.S. plan would grant Israel full security control in the Jordan Valley and provide for some minor land swaps. Remember this, folks. Remember that minor land swaps when I get to Exodus 10. And a possible absorption of some Palestinian refugees in Israel. It also said if Israel accepts the plan and the Palestinians reject it, Israel would have U.S. support to begin annexing settlements unilaterally. Only settlements, you see. See, on the surface, it looks good, but when you read the fine print, folks, it's devious. It ultimately provides for a Palestinian state, but under conditions that no Palestinian leader could conceivably accept, the TV report said. Channel 12 reported that Abbas does not know the details of the plan, and it is regarded in Ramallah as dead on arrival. The PA has no substantive dealings with the U.S. administration since Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital in December 2017. Trump himself seemingly cast doubts on reports, tweeting shortly after their release that reports about details and timings of our closely held peace plan is purely speculative. Well, timing came right out of his own mouth. Next week's meeting could produce an awkward scene. Before I finish, it looks like that a change of plan is happening for political reasons, as you will see. When I say change of plan, President Trump was planning on waiting until after Israel forms a government. But it's obvious that's not going to happen anytime soon, and for political reasons, he wants to release it now, or very soon. Next week's meeting could produce an awkward scene. Gantz has made Netanyahu's indictment on graft charges a focus of his campaign, and his blue and white party is pushing an effort to counter Netanyahu's immunity bid before the election. At the same time, they will be joined by an impeached president who is being tried in the Senate. The U.S. was believed to be holding back on releasing the peace plan until Israel had a permanent government. Those calculations may have changed as a deadlock in Israeli politics looked to be further prolonged. Trump may also be looking for a boost from evangelical and pro-Israel supporters as the Senate weighs whether to remove him from office after he was impeached last month, and as he gears up for a re-election battle this year. Pence was among dozens of world leaders in Jerusalem on Thursday for the World Holocaust Forum. Many of the participants, including Russian President Vladimir Putin and French President Emmanuel Macron, also paid visits to the Palestinians, as they say in the West Bank, but in Judea and Samaria. A Palestinian official said Abbas asked the visiting French and Russian presidents to support the Palestinian position when the plan is published, and I'm sure they will. He asked them to refuse and act against any Israeli annexation of Palestinian land, said the official, speaking on a condition of anonymity because he was discussing closed meetings. While the plan is expected to be friendly to Israel, it still could face opposition from Netanyahu's right-wing partners. Defense Minister Naftali Bennett, leader of the right-wing Imminent party, called Trump a true friend of Israel and said that the country likely stands before historic opportunity. But, he said, his party would not allow the transfer of any land to Palestinian control or for any Palestinian state to be established. Other right-wing politicians similarly voiced alarm at the possibility of a Palestinian state, while left-wing leaders lambasted the purported outline as a threat to a democratic Jewish state. Now we go to Exodus 10. All right. So I'll read a little bit of the beginnings of what transpired, what caused the 8th plague. And that means we'll go to Exodus 9. Verse 27, and Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron, said unto them, I have sinned this time. Not the Lord, Jehovah is righteous. Even Pharaoh knew his name. And the Christians who reject Jehovah and Yehoshua expect to be saved? Even Pharaoh knew his name. Now think about that, folks. Jehovah is righteous. And he's saying him and his people are wicked, criminals. Supplicate to Jehovah. Those are the words that came out of Pharaoh's mouth. This is too much. That there be more mighty thunderings and hail. I will let you go, and you will stay no longer. And Moses said unto him, as soon as I am gone out of the city, I will spread abroad my hands unto Jehovah, and the thunder shall cease, and neither shall there be any more hail, that you may know how that the earth belongs to Jehovah. Who's Jehovah? The Father, the Creator. No, Jesus is not the Creator. And according to King James Version, as for you and your servants, I know that you will not fear Jehovah. You will, it says, to know, affright Jehovah. And the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was bold. But the wheat and the rye were not smitten, because they have not grown up. And Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh, and spread abroad his hands unto Jehovah. And the thundering and hail ceased, and the rain no longer poured upon the earth. And when Pharaoh saw After the rain and the hail and the thunder had stopped, he sinned again. And hardened his heart and his servants. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, neither would he let the children of Israel go, as Jehovah had spoken by Moses. All right. So what I'm trying to establish here is a pattern. A pattern. This reminds me of the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration, let's see if I, let's see, Jewish Palestine. Let's see, map. Let's do the map thing. I may have to look up. All right. So this was the British mandate right here. I'll lower it down so you can see it. All right. This was the British mandate after World War I. Now, there are many variations of this, but we'll look at this variation. So, the division was to be like this. Mandate for Palestine, July 24th, 1922. Where Israel had the Jordan Valley, they had Judea and Samaria. The Jews did. Then why is the world backtracking? Now, we all must remember that the land also goes all the way to the Euphrates River, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. What I'm saying is the world backtrack on their commitment to the Balfour Declaration. Okay? Even the British. And the rulers of Europe, they all went and visited, or most of them went and visited the Palestinians in, I believe it was Judea and Samaria, when they themselves promised Judea and Samaria, right here, get this right here. They promised Judea and Samaria to the Jews, and now they're taking it away, you see. And so President Donald Trump says, okay, we'll give you the settlements, but not all of Judea and Samaria. So this is what Israel looks like today. This is land that does not belong to the Jordanians who call themselves Palestinians. It does not belong to them. Not even by the British mandate. Not even by the British mandate of 1922. And for the world to be pushing on the side of Jordan or Moab is asking for damnation. the very first thing that must happen is all of this land right here has to be given back to Israel. That is the very first thing that must happen. All of it. All of it. Now we go to continue. So let's go down to the 9th plague. Verse 21 of Exodus 10. Now, and Jehovah said unto Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched out his hand toward the sky. Yes, it says the sky. And there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. And they saw not one another, neither rose any from their place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, go serve Jehovah. Only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. What was Moses' answer? The folks in the Yamina party on the right wing are right. Everyone else is wrong. Here's what I mean. He says, even your little ones can go. And Moses said, you must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto Jehovah our Elohim. Our cattle shall also go with us. There shall not a single hoof be left behind. Moses refused to compromise. Moses refused to compromise with Pharaoh for any reason. Not a single hoof. Now, the real shepherd of Israel is not going to allow a single square inch of Israel to be compromised. Not for anybody, including modern day Pharaoh, who's trying to negotiate with elected officials in Israel who have no authority to negotiate that land at all. No authority whatsoever. Not one hoof. Shall be left behind. For therefore we will take and serve Jehovah. Thereof we will take and serve Jehovah our Elohim. And we know not what we must serve Jehovah until we go there. Jehovah strengthened Pharaoh's heart, and Pharaoh would not let them go. And Pharaoh said unto him, get you from me, and take heed to yourself, and see my face no more, for in that day that you see my face you shall die. And Moses said, you have spoken well. I will see your face again no more. And what happens after that? What happens after Pharaoh tries to negotiate with Moses, and Moses said no? The greatest plague of them all. The plague of the firstborn. The plague of the death of the firstborn, right here. Now, there's a plague going that's started in China. Right about the same time that this particular peace plan was yet again, for the umpteenth time, announced to be released. I wonder what that plague is going to do to the world. I don't have the faintest idea, folks. But isn't it amazing? Isn't it interesting that it happened at the same time? Now, before folks go around and start saying, well, there are Christians who believe in whatever, and Donald Trump is one of them, and they're on the right track and whatever. All right, let me show you something here. Times of Israel. Anti-Semitic Jew pig sculpture at the center of German court battle. Well, what is this all about? Jewish activists wants 700-year-old relief on Wittenberg's church removed. Parish agrees it's an insulting piece of history, but it contends that it is a part of its inheritance. What? You see, folks, you see what I'm saying about Protestant churches. What I've been saying about the Protestant churches for the past couple of years. Wittenberg, Germany, high on the wall, a German church where Martin Luther once preached. An ugly remnant of centuries of anti-Semitism is now at the center of a court battle. The so-called Judensau, or Jew pig, sculpture on the town church in Wittenberg. Wittenberg dates back to around 1300. 1300? 1300? 1300, I don't believe there was any such a thing as a Protestant. The Reformation occurred in the 1500s, not in the 1300s. They were all Catholic back then. So it started with the Catholic Church, didn't it? But you see, the sin spread into the reformers. There was no change. They still loved their disgusting, despicable, blasphemous sculptures. It is perhaps the best known of more than 20 such relics from the Middle Ages in various forms and varying states of repair that still adorn churches across Germany and elsewhere in Europe. You see, folks, anti-Semitism is the heart and soul of modern-day Christianity, whether it is Catholicism or Protestantism. And that's what's driving this Pharaoh-ish peace plan of the century. Located about 4 meters, 13 feet above the ground on the corner of the church, it depicts people identifiable by their headwear as Jews suckling on the tits of a cow while a rabbi lifts the animal's tail. In 1570, after the Protestant Reformation, an inscription referred to an anti-Jewish tract by Luther was added. So the Protestants added to the sin of the Catholics. It wasn't foul enough. The sin of the Catholics was not foul enough for the Protestants. No, they had to go even worse. They had to be even worse than the Catholics. Judaism considers pigs impure, and no one disputes that the sculpture is deliberately offensive. But there is strong disagreement about consequences that should have and what to do with the relief. A court in the eastern city of Naumburg will consider on Tuesday a Jewish man's bid to take to make the parish take it down. This is, folks, this is what Christianity is today. The foundation of Christianity today is labeling the Jews as Judensau. That is the foundation of Christianity today. The original church would never do such a thing. Paul warned the Romans against doing such a thing. Now, so I have to tell you, folks, that if you're affiliated with any one of these Protestant groups or Catholic groups, remember, this is your foundation. This is what's behind the negotiating battle, trying to trip the Israelis up when in fact what it's going to do is trip the Gentiles. This peace plan is going to do. And I believe that Jordan is going to be the first one to trip over it. Right here in this particular article. Never mind this foolish headline here. Read most of the guts of the article. Not only will the annexation of the Jordan Valley potentially lead to cutting off of security coordination with the Palestinians, but it also could lead to a total collapse of relations with Jordan. What does Israel want? This is always the most important question, but also the one that is so difficult to answer. The question appeared in a sharp focus this week as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and blue and white leader Benny Gantz battle over who is more right-wing and who is more committed to annexing the Jordan Valley before, during, or after the upcoming election. It was a clear lesson on how policy should not be set, how a country should not make decisions on strategic and fateful decisions such as what its borders will be, how it will determine them, and whether it will be done unilaterally or within the framework of an internationally recognized peace deal. Well, that's all baloney and nonsense. What the part that I am pointing to is this. Does Netanyahu think Israelis are fools? Ahead of the September vote, he said that his plan was to annex the Jordan Valley after the election. Not before. After. There are videos of him saying it. Now Gantz caught up to him on the right. Netanyahu has to move even further right, saying that it can be done immediately. Gantz did not remain silent and challenged Netanyahu. Here's a tip. You can apply Israeli law over the Jordan Valley with a cabinet decision within 2 hours and without a debate in the Knesset, he wrote back to the Prime Minister on Twitter on Tuesday. Let's see you do it. Confused? You should be. The reason is because this is not the way a responsible government enacts a policy with far-reaching consequences for Israel and potentially the entire Middle East. Not only will the annexation of the Jordan Valley potentially lead to cutting off of security coordination with the Palestinians. Here's the kicker, folks. Here it is. Everybody sees what's coming. But it could also lead to a total collapse in Israel relations with King Abdullah, whose regime stability is of the utmost strategic importance for the Jewish state. At the same time, at the same visit to the Jordan Valley on Tuesday, Gantz was asked about the Trump peace plan, dubbed the deal of the century, which seems to be headed for a rollout next week. I hope President Trump will hurry and release his plan, he said. I am looking forward to the plan's release. What? Did we hear correctly? Gantz is looking forward to the plan coming out soon. Just 2 weeks ago, Gantz said that releasing the plan before the election will be a gross intervention in Israel's democratic electoral process. He said it in private meetings and then repeated it at blue and white faction meeting. The reason Gantz did not want the plan to come out before the election was quite obvious. He knows that the plan is going to be favorable to Israel. It is expected to declare, for example, that all settlements remain Israeli territory, and that Netanyahu will then use its unveiling as a part of the campaign to explain to the electorate why they need him to remain in office. Well, Netanyahu should be saying, no, Donald Trump, we decline. All of the land that was promised to us by the British Mandate belongs to us. Period. As it is, Gantz is suspicious of the Trump administration and the way it has bear-hugged Netanyahu over the past 3 years. Yair Lapid, his blue and white co-leader, said that one of the first decisions he would make as foreign minister would be replace Israel's ambassador to the U.S., Ron Dermer. What happened that Gantz zigzagged? Why is he suddenly in favor of annexation and releasing of the peace plan before March 2nd? The answer seems to be mixed. It is possible that Gantz changed his mind about the plan and understands that it is truly in Israel's interest. After making his first gross interference comment, he met with U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman and Trump's peace envoy Avi Berkowitz. It is possible that both men updated Gantz about the plan and what it means for Israel. Gantz is not the typical politician, etc., etc. So what this guy is trying to say is that what I'm trying to say is what he pointed out here, that it appears that Jordan will be the first one to fall at the trip line of peace and safety that Paul was talking about in 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 2 and 3, and that David was talking about in Psalm 69, verse 22. The scripture seems to back it up. Let me show you. Numbers 24:17. I shall see him, but not yet. I shall behold him, but not now. There shall come out a star out of Jacob. A scepter shall rise out of Israel, and he is going to smite the borders of Moab. Who's Moab? East of the Jordan River. Yehoshua is going to do it. The son of David is going to do it. Is that the first order of business? It appears so. Let me show you. It's in Zechariah 12, and it is also here. Oh, come on. What happened here? All right, I have to restart Bible Hub again. Here we go. Psalm 83 and verse 8. Keep not silence, O Elohim, hold not your peace, be not still, O Elohim, for lo, your enemies make a tumult, and they that hate you have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against your people, and consulted against your hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be an inheritance. They have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against you. The tabernacle of Edom, the Ishmaelites, Moab, and the Hagarenes. Now, if we scroll down, we see here, he mentions all these nations. Right here. Asher, that would be Iraq. They have also helped the children of Lot. And there you have it, folks. It is Moab, Ammon, Jordan, which is going to drag all the other nations across that trap. All right. So, what was the other one? I'm going to try to remember. Zechariah 12. Here's what the children of Lot are going to do. It's no, it's not 12. It's 14. Right, here we go. Strong's Concordance. Behold, the day of Jehovah's wrath comes. What starts it, folks? What begins it? Who's east of Jerusalem? Moab, Jordan. And your spoils shall be divided in the midst of you, for I will gather the Goy against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women raped, and half the city shall be exiled. What half? The eastern half. By who? Jordan. Jordan and their confederates, as we just read. And the rest of the people will not be cut off from the city. What they're planning on doing is taking East Jerusalem by force. Ishmaelites, the Hagarenes, what was the other one? Assyria, Asher, that's Iraq. And then Jehovah will go forth and fight against those nations, as he fought in the day of battle, and his feet shall stand in that day on the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And it goes to show you just exactly what they're supposed to do. And it is going to be in that day, the light will be rare. There won't be any. That's when the plague of darkness comes. You've read about it. This King James Version is wrong. It shall be dark and congealed, thick darkness. That day is when people are going to know Jehovah. That's the day when they invade East Jerusalem from the east. Jordan, the Ishmaelites, the Edomites, the Hagarenes, and Asher, Iraq. That begins it. Jordan is going to drag those nations across the trip line of the peace and safety trap that is written about in Psalm 69:22, and that Paul wrote about in 1 Thessalonians 5 verses 1 through 3. And that event is going to cause all the nations around the world to fall over that trip line, that trap. Jordan, obviously is apparently going to start the whole thing. Along with, you can read that last scripture I just pointed out in Psalm. What's going to happen? This shall be the plague wherewith Jehovah will smite the people that fought against Jerusalem. It sounds like a nuclear strike, doesn't it? Am I saying it is? I'm not saying it is or it isn't. Their flesh will consume while they stand in their mouth, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass that a great tumult from Jehovah shall be among them. They're going to be fighting against each other. This is written about in Haggai 2, verses 18 through 22. And everyone will lay a hold of the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. That is also written about in Ezekiel 38. And we see in Ezekiel 38, there are more nations involved than just Moab. You see, because Moab or Jordan is going to drag the whole world across that trap that is going to be laid for the Gentiles. And this plague is going to be upon the horse, the mule, the camel, the donkey, and all the beasts that are in the tents of these people. That sounds like in their homelands. Folks, watch out. And watch out for this coronavirus plague. We have seen every president before who's tried to mess with Israel's land. Something bad has happened. I've gone over it before. I think it's still on my list here. I think I'll go find the article and you can read it for yourself. Right here. So the article is right here. What happens when you mess with Israel? All right? This is by Bill Federer, and it was published September 7th, 2015. Now, if this is going to be the greatest peace plan of them all, and if plagues happen because of these previous incidents, then is the plague that's coming with this one going to be the greatest one of them all? We shall soon find out, but I would urge everyone to look at the dates. They say next Tuesday now. Prepare yourselves and know the name of Jehovah before this happens. And call upon the name of Jehovah for mercy. Don't do like Pharaoh. Don't go to Pharaoh's houses of worship. Don't hang around with religions that in the past have called the Jews Judensau. Do not do such a thing, or you will be subjected to the great tribulation that is coming upon the Gentiles, as spoken about in Luke 21 and Daniel 12. I think that's enough for today. I'll keep you posted if anything new happens.